We're so
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Hometown Mamas podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is our first intro, so bear with me as it sounds corny, but it's fine. So today, what we wanted to talk about was feeding, our journey with feeding our babies. That first year, um, that's pretty much what absorbs your first thoughts, especially as soon as the baby's born. Okay, is she gonna nurse? Are we gonna give her a bottle? She's got to eat, whatever. So I think there's a lot of anxieties surrounding that. I mean, it's pretty much one of their main activities. But I just wanted to start with, we are all on the same page as fed is best.
yeah.
Fed is best. And I want to clarify whether that's exclusively breastfeeding, exclusively pumping, exclusively formula feeding. If your baby has a G tube and isn't capable of taking a bottle or nursing, and you know, a lot of times the thought we have in our head of what our journey is going to be with our kid, a lot of times we don't get to choose that. Sometimes they choose for us. And
Mm-hmm.
that can be upsetting. It can be stressful. And I just want us to preface that no matter what, like, a fed baby from a loving mom that means you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
So we'll start from there and kind of talk about our own personal journeys with that. I guess, well, I personally have done both nursing and formula feeding, bottles, pumping. I've done it all. And I gotta be honest, I never had a feeling of one way was better than the other. When breastfeeding didn't work out with Andy, it didn't hit me hard. And I know that's different. A lot of people can be very passionate about wanting to nurse and all of that. And that never was something that I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I don't know if it's because I knew my mom growing up, like I don't know why. Do we all know what our moms did for us? But I was bottle fed and I was like, I turned out fine, with formula and, and
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
years later. So it wasn't something that upset me too much. But I will say their tummy problems, reflux, constipation, all that stuff is stressful. But so I have no real strong feelings towards the disappointment aspect of it, but I know a lot of women are. So I don't know if either of you have had a time or if, like, I don't know your feeding journey. So I don't know if any of you want to talk about that first.
Yeah, Grace, I'm dying to know, especially your journey with twins.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a unique experience trying to feed two little tiny babies at once.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to condense this. You know me, I'll talk in circles. So I'm like, wrap it up. Um, when I was pregnant with Jack, I read a lot of material and I just had saw, okay, breastfeeding, there's so many great things. That's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not get any formula. We weren't prepared for formula or anything like that. And when Jack was born, we were in the hospital and we had the lactation consultant come down and she's like, how's everything going? How's the positioning? I'm like, I guess everything's going okay. I'm a first time mama and no one has showed me anything else. And I think when you're in the hospital for the first time, they're not eating much. So you don't know how much they're getting, really. You just kind of assume something's coming out, and there's the little drips and stuff like that. So we had ordered a breast pump and whatnot. So when we took Jack home, I started noticing that his lips were getting very dry. And I'm like Googling, right? Like, what's going on with my baby? We go to our pediatrician the next day. And he's like, how much are you eating? And I'm like, well, I'm backed up, first of all. I'm trying my best. And he's like,
We
you
already
need,
know that story.
yes. So he's like, you need to eat at least 6,000 calories. And in my head, I'm like, how many Chipotle burritos is that per day? Like, that's a lot.
That's an unhinged number.
So my biggest advice, if a man tells you something with, okay, doctors aside, yes, doctors are wonderful. They can be pediatricians. But if a male pediatrician doctor is giving you breastfeeding advice, like, be cautious
You would literally
because
have to poop 5 times a day.
Exactly. And we know that was not even happening once per month, prior. So
That's wild.
it was very scary though, because we had, we didn't go out and buy formula, but we had like Similac that was sent to the house from like a baby or, whatever registry.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the ingredients on the back. And my husband and I both were like, oh my gosh, like, we don't feel comfortable with this. Like, I think it was like, I don't even know, canola oil as like the second ingredient. And I was like, I don't know about all that. Um, so we were not prepared. And I remember just crying, like crying. I'm a crier anyway. Everyone knows that by now. But like, what am I doing? I'm trying to breastfeed. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, you get to pick as a mom. I can choose between breastfeeding. I can choose between formula. And it was very hard because there's that stigma behind breast is best. And, if you're not breastfeeding, you're doing it wrong. So, like what you talked about, Sarah, in my head, I'm like, I'm failing as a mom. I can't feed my son. I'm stressed out to the max. And I could not handle it mentally. So, a girlfriend had recommended Kendamil. And we took our Jack into the pediatrician for a checkup, and he's like, "What are you feeding this kid? Like, he's doing great." I have another mother in the other room. His baby's losing weight, and I'm like, "Well, maybe it's because the canola oil. It's going right through their system." In my head, I'm like, "Oil is just slipping through. They're not maybe gonna put on as much weight." So he's like, "Thanks for that recommendation." And I'm like, thanks. I'm also not eating 6,000 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about 4 or 5 months in when I was pregnant with the twins, and I felt like I had like a handle on motherhood. And I'm like, let me give breastfeeding a try again. So I'm like trying to get him to latch again and to start the process. And I reached out to a lactation consultant, went in with her. Breast, I tried every breast pump, like it just was not working. And TMI, but like my nipples were like getting stuck. It was pulling. It was so painful. And she's like, I've never seen anything like this. This is so strange. She's like, by the way, since you're pregnant, you probably shouldn't start breastfeeding if you haven't already been, because it's going to release hormones that can trigger a miscarriage. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we'll just start
Yeah.
again when the twins are born. And I had told her, again, TMI, back in my day, nipples were pierced. So there was scar tissue that was in there. And I'm basically working with one boob. And going through that experience, I was like, 3 babies, 1 boob. If anyone knows me in person, I have like the body of a 16-year-old boy, negative A cups. I'm not working with a lot up here as it is. So when the twins came, thankfully my mom was there for the first 2 months, because I locked myself in the bathroom with 3 sterilizers going. They're still on bottles. My daughter, she was born, we had to syringe feed her for,
Mm.
God, probably like a month with formula. She couldn't be on the breast. And if my mom was not there, I would not have had the time and effort to go into exclusively pumping, trying to get it out, because I knew then that like it's not anything else. My body just cannot do this. It's not my lack of trying. It's not anything other than that. It's just my body cannot do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm thankful for that experience and trying, but my kids were all bottle fed. And I remember hearing like, you're going to have bond issues if you don't. And that whole crazy thing that the world tells you, it's not true. I didn't feel less attached to my kids by bottle feeding. So
Mm-hmm.
if that helps, mamas, like, just trust your gut. And if it's stressing you out and I feel like stress alone will probably prevent you from doing what you need to do. Just follow your gut. So that's my
Yeah.
story. I'm looking forward to hearing y'all's, because I've tried both and my kids are fine.
Yeah. I love that, Grace. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. We'll touch back. I'll have comments, but Danny, I'll let you
Yeah.
go.
Well, I can confirm the stress and breastfeeding do not go well together. I have 4 kids, so I have like, a different story for each of them because every kid is just a different story. But
Yeah.
to keep them all kind of brief, Rosa we had a rather uneventful journey after the 6 week point. The first 6 weeks of learning to breastfeed, first of all, if you are listening and you are expecting a baby and you desire to breastfeed your baby, it's not just going to happen. Like, I straight up gave birth and the nurse was like, okay, like, we should probably try and feed her. And I was like, she's just going to do that. Like, she's just going to do it on her own. And she was like, I'll show you how to latch her. And I was like, latch?
Yeah.
I didn't do any research whatsoever, which was so naive of me. I also thought that babies would just sleep. That was ridiculous of me to think that, but sweet, naive little Danny. Anyways, so
God
the first
bless her.
six
I
weeks of
just
her life was like this massive learning curve. I was one of those people that felt very passionately like I wanted to give it my all and really
Yeah.
try. And I was capable of producing milk, and she was capable of nursing. A lot of it was one, I did not know how to latch a baby, and I was not getting a deep latch, and so she tore my nipples up like they were bleeding. It was rough, and I just know
Oh,
so many moms who have been through the same thing, and that stuff will mess with your head. When you're in that
yeah.
much pain, it will mess with you. So if you're listening and you're going through that, please go see a lactation consultant. It saved my life. It saved my nipples.
Oh,
It
yeah.
saved humanity.
Save the
um,
nipples.
yeah, so my lactation consultant, if you're in the Fredericksburg area, Caroline Connie, and she's with Mary Washington Hospital. She's amazing, and she taught me so much and just like empowered me. And I think that is one sign of a really good lactation consultant, is that they will make you feel confident. And I have seen a few different ones throughout my time. And Caroline I don't know, she's magic. Anyways, but we got through it. We pushed through. We figured it out. And the rest of my breastfeeding journey with Rosa was dreamy and great and wonderful. And then my sweet,
Oh,
sweet Levi came along, and it was a hot mess. The first couple months weren't too crazy eventful. It's just I had a colicky baby, and I knew something was off. And it turned out he had a lip tie and a posterior tongue tie, and
oh,
so he was swallowing a lot of air. He wouldn't take bottles because, well, he would, but he would drink max 2 ounces, and this is at like 3, 4 months old. Is all he could drink because he would swallow so much air. So um, we got all of this sorted out. We got the ties cut. He could take bottles, but he would not take the breast because he had developed an aversion. I think primarily because he was swallowing so much air, feeding was uncomfortable for him. And so he would like scream, arch, and pull away from the breast. The only time I could get him to eat was when he was already asleep. Like if he woke up in the middle of the night, he would because he was so sleepy. So I did get to night feed him for a while, but daytime we were pumping, and my hat is off to pumping mamas because that is an exhausting life. It's dishes, it's being stuck to a wall for 20 minutes at a time, trying to give a bottle to a fussy baby while the 2-year-old is running around. And it's just insanity, and it was not the life for me. Simultaneously, I was going through all of those feelings of depression and anxiety, and my milk supply, I watched it go from I introduced formula at about 6 months because I was having trouble keeping up, and we were just doing like 1 bottle a day, and I was able to provide the rest. And it went from like 20 ounces to like 1 ounce over the course of like a
oh,
couple weeks, just because my mental health tanked. So if you are stressed and anxious, it will affect every facet of your life. Um, so that was a really hard season. It was very hard for me, I think, because in my head, I had created this idea that I needed to punk through pumping for 12 months, and I had to do it. And I
mhm.
owed this to my kid. And like looking back now, it was for sure like, I'm pretty sure I struggle with like OCD, like obsessive compulsive thinking. I think that's what was going on with me. But now, like, having hindsight, I'm I'm just really grateful that there was an option to feed my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like when my life was spiraling, my mind was spiraling, and I just felt the lowest I've ever felt. I didn't have to stress about not making enough milk. Like I had something to give him. And so that was the rest of Levi's feeding journey. Was he was a bottle baby. He got his milkies, and he was a happy boy. And you know what? It never ruined our bond. That boy loves me so much. It's insane. He was having a morning, and I just sat and sang to him and rocked, and he cuddled me for like 15 minutes, and it was
Beautiful. Yeah.
awesome. So, anyways, take heart if you're listening. I'm just talking to the listeners right now. If you're listening and you're going through that same journey of having to bottle feed when that wasn't what you desired, it's not going to change your connection with your baby.
Mm-mm.
Genuinely, I think he's the most obsessed with me out of all my kids. So.
Oh.
And then
Thank
my
you
last
guys.
two were so redemptive. Goldie and Daisy have been a dream, and the Lord has really just like uh, answered prayers. So it's been a really beautiful, uneventful journey with my last two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
yeah, the wise words and wisdom of Danny and her four kids. And I want to go back. Kendamil, is that what it's called?
Mm.
Yes, they
So
sell it
that,
at.
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say they sell it at Target. And I think Walmart had picked it up,
Is
and they
it
have
goat milk? It's goat's milk, right?
they do so they have different variations of it. And my
Okay.
daughter, she had the digestive issues, so she was on the Kendamil Goat while my Jack was one, so he moved to Kendamil Toddler, and then Bo
Uh-huh.
was on a different Kendamil Regular. So they all
Yeah.
had three different things
Mm-hmm.
going at once. But it worked, you figure it out, and we never had issues, Besides Mila, she was choking, but that had nothing to do with that. That started because she was a little baby. She's a
Yeah.
little tiny thing.
Um,
Mhm.
I because of my job, I see like we do assessments on little babies all the time, and so much in that first year, especially right when they come home from the hospital, is figuring out feeding. And Kendamil has been extremely beneficial for so many families.
Ooh.
So I am. It's not something I had even known of when Andy was on formula, or I would have probably tried it. I tried them all. Literally tried them all, except for
Yeah.
that one. I tried them all because I was like, she's got allergies, she's fussy, she arches, like, and
Mhm.
I was up. So I ended up having to have a C-section and like induced,
Mhm.
and I had all these fluids in me, and I just didn't have a lot of milk production. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but that is kind of because I had a totally different experience with Isla. But I also, so I would try to pump and I despised it. Like I felt so isolated and sad, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm just trying to pump, and I'm just like, it makes me feel bad. And then my friend Kristen, what is it called, Danny?
Deemer.
And I didn't even know this was a thing,
What is
but
that?
it's
Dysphoric
dysphoric
milk
milk ejection
ejection
reflex.
reflex.
So
Mhm.
it's
Okay.
a thing that once your milk starts I guess ejecting, I don't know the word, the letdown
When you have a
happens.
letdown, yeah.
Yeah, you have this like overwhelming sense of like sadness, and it goes away after like a minute or two. And I swear to you, I was texting like my friends thinking I was crazy. Like I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like,
Wow.
like I've always been like happy and,
Mhm.
Yeah.
anxious, but happy. But like I was like so gloomy, and then it like made me hate pumping, and I was like, I just like, I guess, and it made me feel guilty that I couldn't sacrifice this for Andy. Like I couldn't pump,
Wow.
and so I was just like, whatever. And then even with Isla, like I would pump, and I still I still would let my boobs get huge and like be so like I would leak and uncomfortable, and like only pump once or twice a day because I still hated it. But we would nurse all the time at night, and that's a whole nother thing. But I just like, if that happens to you, like that is a real thing. Um
Mhm.
and you can look it up online. I had no idea, but there's some people that feel like they hate pumping, and that could be why. And it's okay if you choose not to do that.
Yeah.
It's okay if it's not good for your mental health. Like you're still doing the best for your kid by taking care of
Mhm.
yourself.
I
And I
think
think,
there's a statistic that says the greatest indicator of your child's happiness is their mother's happiness.
Mothers. Yes.
And so if
Yes.
that is like any encouragement for you to put your mental health first, please, please do it.
Yes.
Yes, we have
And
to
I
take care of ourselves. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sarah. I
no
just,
No, that's
no you
perfect.
yeah.
seriously, I saw that the other day and I was like, that is so spot on because we're, most of the time the primary caretaker, even as a working mom, well, I'm going back to work, but, it's like the moms are still gonna come home and do their
Hmm.
thing after
Hmm.
work, like that's a whole different ball game. We'll get there,
Hmm.
Sarah. I think we just need to have you alone, like talk about working mom life, but
Oh, I have plenty. I
Yeah.
have people who can come on here and talk about that too. You know what I
but
don't I it's so hard to say. It's like I want to, because you guys are still working. You're just not getting paid.
Mhm.
In a way. Like I still
yeah,
think that you're doing so much giving and tasks and jobs every day that I was trying to find the words for, like, I don't want to say like, oh, I have a full-time job, because you guys also have a full-time job.
Mhm.
yeah.
So it's like, do I say like my like, I was trying to think of the best way to word it, like for like how to describe
I think I've heard
working.
people say like full-time job outside of the house.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
that's
Yeah,
a
that's
good,
at least
good,
yeah.
because
that's
I
how I think of
truly
it.
like
Yeah.
it it helps me be a better mom at home, because
Mhm.
I am able to distract my
Mhm.
mind with something else.
Mhm.
Um, and I know I'm not the only one who feels that way, with, but there's also that guilt. Okay, like, why can't I be around my kids all the time? Like, why is this so overstimulating to me all the time? So we can get into that another time, which we will.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think, as far as feeding, and I know, I'm sorry we have to wrap it up early because my sweet husband has the flu and is sweating on the inside taking care of the kids. But I think you guys wrapped it up beautifully, your experiences, and then the advice. I don't know if there's any last little bit you want to talk about.
One thing, and I wish I didn't leave this off because I felt like it would have been really helpful with the story.
Mhm.
Uh, so with the twins, because the Mila had the issues, the lactation consultant came down with a hospital grade breast pump. And
Mhm.
with Jack, we didn't have that. That was probably the most useful thing that I had because that anything that was in there was coming out. So when we left the hospital, I reached out to like a third party who rented them, and that's what I used when I was like locking myself in the bathroom when my mom was there, is that hospital grade breast pump. And for someone who again has nothing there, I was able to get a couple ounces out. It just it wouldn't have been enough. Wasn't worth the mental health issues for
Mhm.
Mhm.
three babies for that. But I'm serious. That hospital grade breast pump was like a game changer for me. And I didn't even obviously pump, but I just wish that I had known about it with my first pregnancy. And I felt like that would have really
Made things
changed a lot.
different. Yep.
Yeah.
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 And you can get hospital grade pumps through insurance for free.
Yes.
If
Yes.
if you have
Yes.
health insurance. I don't know if people who aren't insured can still find a way to do that, but I do know if you have health insurance.
Yeah.
Every pregnancy too, not just one
Hmm.
total, but every pregnancy you can get a new one. So that is a helpful tidbit. And
Mhm.
getting
Yes.
those
I
hospital
liked
grade
my
ones, very nice.
Spectra. The one that I have now, or that I used, was like the hospital grade Spectra, I think. Not the
Yeah.
Spectra to go or whatever it was. The to
Mhm.
go one didn't help me. I always wanted to try the portable ones, which some moms
Yeah.
love, but I don't know.
It's
But
nice.
yes.
It's nice to have a little bit of each, but if you're gonna pick one, the Spectra S2 is a really great one.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
hospital grade Spectra. She's my ride or die.
Yeah.
Okay, I own too
Aw.
many breast pumps. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Same. We went through like six of them.
before I had kids, Danny had, I mean, obviously Danny had kids first, and on uh we were on a bachelorette
It
trip
was
or something.
Kristen. It was
Okay. And
Kristen.
so
And I was
Danny
just,
brought out her pump and was pumping. I swear to God, I had never seen boobs do that before. I was like, because I was like, oh my God. Like they just go, you know?
I have elastic nipples, so those suckers are like
Yes. Yes. Okay. Same. That was
torpedoing.
like,
Just
yes. They'll keep going.
they
They'll
will
keep
not
giving.
stop.
They'll keep giving.
My babies are aggressive. They'll just like try and turn their whole head. Who's there? With the
Yeah.
mouth.
I just feel like you have to have nerve damage in your neck. Like, I do feel them anymore.
No, they're rubber.
They're
It's fake.
This bleeds into like the intimacy after kids. Is she like, hey babe, sorry,
don't touch my damn nipples, please.
doesn't
Oh
doesn't
man.
work like that anymore.
They might
Oh
work. I
man.
don't know. We'll get into that.
We can talk about it. We can talk about lactating during intimacy because that's a fun
Oh God. All right. Well, this was fantastic. I think it got right to the point. And if people want, like, we have so many, we already were talking about things lined up. But I would love to have people's perspective of what they would like more of. Like, I know
Yeah,
even the first episode, like, we could go even deeper into mental health if we needed to.
for sure.
And we could
we've
also
got
go,
to. We've got
yeah,
to.
yeah.
One
And
episode,
I
I
think
don't
it
think.
spirals into, like, it weaves its way into all our episodes, it seems like.
Hmm.
Uh,
I think it
but
was a great place to start because it is the
yeah,
core of like all of this.
yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, and we can even do, down the road, do another special feeding, whatever, more
The
advice, or
lactation
even have a
consultant.
lactation consultant. Yeah, that'd be
Super
awesome.
cool.
Or have a
Yeah.
speech therapist who talks about lip ties and tongue
Oh,
ties and
yeah.
reflex and formula and all this stuff. I feel like that would be a good one
Proper
too.
tongue placement when they're
Yep.
sleeping and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool to learn.
yes, so much fun stuff to do, but I think I had no idea. I knew some of Danny's story, but Grace, I think that was really
Yeah.
powerful
Hmm.
to
All of
know
you guys,
because
seriously.
but I
Yes.
think that that is a very common thing to have, like, to have the idea, okay, I have to nurse, I have to nurse, I have to
Hmm.
nurse,
Yeah.
and then it, not going the way you planned, and still
Hmm.
Yeah.
having that bond with your baby. So we'll have to talk about breastfeeding in public, Danny. I know you have.
Oh man.
That's another that we'll have to do an episode on, like, mom shaming, I think.
Oh my
Um,
golly, that would be a good one for
that would
sure.
be like a fun one, not a fun
Mhm.
one, but, like, it would.
Oh
I
yeah.
would. Okay, we should uh have people like put it on our Instagram. Like, tell us your best mom shaming story and share
Oh,
them. Like,
Yeah.
share some anonymous stories. I think that would be great.
that's a
Yeah.
great idea,
And
Danny.
then we'll just crap all over the evil people that said mean things.
Yeah. And all we can do is pray for him. That's what
Yeah, there you
that,
go.
that's what I don't know. I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and Theo Vaughn always says that all we can do is pray for her.
I
So
love that. I love that audio.
all right. Well, I will get back in there before my husband passes out, but
Thank you,
just
Buck,
pray that no one else gets sick.
Yes.
And
for
you
sure.
guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will get our second episode up on Tuesday.
Bye.